How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
At Starbucks, we offer full and part-time baristas 100% upfront college tuition coverage, which means they can thrive at our company and in class. At Starbucks, benefits like college tuition coverage are just the start.
Shaq here, spinning fast-acting pain relief with Icy Hot. Ice works fast, heat makes it last. Icy Hot, you're so back.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. I am recording this on Monday, October 6th. I usually record on Tuesdays, but I have another busy week, so I'm recording a little bit early. My life is a little crazy right now, of my own making. I'm not actually bombarded with a bunch of work stuff right now. Last time we spoke, I told you I did CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, for like 5-6 days. And I was like, oh, I'm going to recover. I'm not leaving the house anymore. That was a lie. Tuesday or Wednesday, the Washington chapter of Jack and Jill had a fundraiser in Navy Yard. So I went to that. And then Saturday, one of my friends, my really, really good friend that I met in Ghana, has moved back to Maryland. So we hooked up. We went to, I think it's Balian Springs in Virginia. It's a Korean spa, but the decor is Indonesia, Bali specifically, hence Balian Springs. Lovely, pricey, but it's like brand new. I think it opened last year. So everything is like state of the art and super, super, super clean. The food is amazing. I had sushi. Korean spas always have good sushi. Some of the best sushi I've ever had was at the Korean spa. What's the one in New York that's out in Queens? I only went once because it's always so busy. This one, I went on Saturday afternoon. We didn't show up until 4:30, but it stays open till 9:30. I wouldn't say we had the place to ourselves, but it absolutely did not feel crowded at all. And I was like, oh, other than like, a Monday, this might be the ideal time to go. It was lovely. They had like a heated pool on the top floor and a jacuzzi and some cocktails. And I was like, oh, this is wonderful. I could do this every weekend. Although it was expensive. Like I want to say it was like $130 and the food was kind of expensive and the drinks were expensive. It was a good excursion. But I was like doing it every weekend while I'm trying to renovate this house. Might not be the best use of my finances at this time. Just saying. Speaking of the condo, Penny, the Tyler is back. I think I told y'all about this. There's been little to no progress on the condo for the last couple weeks. Like some stuff, but not like the bathroom, at least one, and kitchen that I thought would be finished about now were unable to be worked on because the gentleman from the contracting team that does the tile was out sick. I mean, he was like real sick, like in the hospital sick. I couldn't rant and rage. Like the man was really like down bad and tried to come back early. And his doctor was like, no, I don't clear him to work yet. Like the man was genuinely like not doing well. So I couldn't make a big fuss about it. But, still, I'm just like frustrated, not with him or his illness, but the process of it all. Cause I've been through a lot trying to get this house pulled together. It's very stressful. Still, not as stressful as when the contractors quit. But I did learn today that the Tyler has returned to the apartment. He is in good health. He is in good spirits. And he is happy to be back to work. My designer told me this morning that he is in the apartment and is actively laying tile this week. At this point, he's got to do the tile for bath 1 and bath 2. Bath 2 is all ready to go. There's also the fireplace needs tile, the hearth needs tile, and then when the counters come in for the kitchen, I had to measure last week, so I think it's 2 weeks for those to come in. Once the counters and the sink come in, then we need to do the backsplash and the kitchen. And I think the kitchen will be done by then, God willing. I just want a working kitchen and a working bathroom so that when I go up to the city, I can stay in my place as opposed to staying in hotels. Like I found a lovely little hotel situation in Edgewater, which is very close to the city, which has beautiful views, which is quiet, which has space for me to walk along the waterfront. Like it's quite lovely. Beautiful restaurants nearby. I found one that might become my fave. Food was good. Service and drinks, cool. But I just want to stay in my place. I made an executive decision about my life over the weekend. I'm actually not going to stay away for 5 months as I previously planned because I have the trips for See World. I was going to go and stay because we have 4 trips between November and April. And I was like, it doesn't make sense to keep flying back and forth. And that's a lot of wear and tear. I was trying to figure out what to do for New Year's Eve. And I was like, should I stay in Cape Town? Should I go to Ghana? Should I try somewhere else? Because I've done Ghana for New Year's several times. I've done South Africa, not Cape Town. I did Johannesburg for New Year's a couple times already. It's a while ago, but still. But I was like, maybe try something new somewhere else on the continent. But I was like, really, 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 really what I want more than anything is to see the fireworks from my condo. I've got a panoramic view of the Isle of Manhattan. More than anything, I want to spend New Year's Eve in my actual apartment. I want to be with my condo. So I decided to come back. And then when I go for the second Cape Town trip, I think I'll just stay on the continent for 2 to 3 months that time. So hopefully I'll be able to move my stuff to my condo and spend New Year's Eve in my space. Even if I have to sleep on the air mattress, I would still rather just be with my home. We have a couple updates this week. One of them is very important. A couple episodes back, we talked about a suspected lynching in Mississippi. Young man, Trey Reed, 21, 22 years old, student. His body was found hanging from a tree on campus. And for obvious reasons, black man, young black man, people were, suspicious, especially given the heightened violence in the country right now. People suspected the worst. The initial autopsy determined that his death was a suicide. And for obvious reasons, people were like, nah, I don't trust the state of Mississippi. I don't trust the university. I don't trust whatever town, county, police department that said it was an autopsy, the coroner. I don't know that man. I don't trust it. So Ben Crump, civil rights attorney Ben Crump, got involved. He's representing the family. He said they will do an independent investigation to find out what happened to that son, to that brother. And then also Colin Kaepernick said that he would pay for a second autopsy to see what happened, which brings us to today. So over the weekend and last week, there have been several reports of the results of a second autopsy. People are saying that the body was found to have blunt force trauma. There's a story about Trey Reed, his sister, having a confrontation with some white men on campus because of her comments about Charlie Kirk. And the story is that her brother, Trey, intervened, and then the next day his body was found hanging from a tree. Okay. I saw these reports. There are people who have mentioned this stuff to me, like, Dee, did you see this? Like, are you going to talk about this on the podcast? Because I know you said you'd update. I have not found any credible publication that is reporting anything about a second autopsy. Like, I looked several times. One thing that I did find is there's a story on BET News, and the headline is "Misinformation Spreads as Trey Reed's Family Waits for Second Autopsy Results." So at this time, as of Monday, October 6th, I'm recording this podcast at 12:44 in the afternoon, but there are no results for the second autopsy. You can look up this BET story on your own. You can search for information about the second autopsy reports on your own, and you'll see what comes up. If you don't find what I'm saying credible, then I want you to go see it for yourself so that you're not being misinformed. There's so much disinformation intentionally right now. But here's from the BET story, and this also went up this morning at 11:30 a.m. Jasmine Browley is the journalist here on BET.com. The second autopsy report for Trey Reed, a 21-year-old Delta State University student, has not yet been made public, according to the Clarion Ledger. That is a local newspaper. Let's click to the Mississippi Clarion Ledger. Same thing. Second autopsy report has not been released to the public. That doesn't mean it's not completed. It means it hasn't been released to the public. I also remember credible reports that there was a video of the hanging and the family had asked that it not be made public. And Ben Crump was like, we need to see it. Like, the family needs to see it. I don't think they had seen it yet. So there is video that exists somewhere. I don't ever want to see it. But I know that this is I was going to say sensitive. It's not sensitive. This is a fraught time. People are justifiably angry, justifiably scared. We are being bombarded with crazy shit and negativity and violence. It's like the videos that are online right now of ICE and their raids are not that the ones before were any better, but it's just like, you heard about the story in Chicago where they like hopped out of helicopters or some shit on the South Side. And I was like, ain't that where the black people are? What you doing over there? ICE was convinced that there were Venezuelan gang members in this particular building, and they did this raid in the middle of the night where they went door to door, snatching people literally from their beds, putting zip ties on people and stacking them in, I think I've read U-Haul trucks. And by people, I mean adults, but I also mean elderly, and I also mean children who are American citizens. Those are the stories that are coming out from the places that are actually covering the news story. People had to call out certain publications over the weekend to be like, why are you not reporting this? Why is this not the leading news story? Like, why are y'all talking about dumb shit instead of talking about what just happened in Chicago? This is crazy. We are under attack from our government, and the media, my profession, is dropping the fucking ball and covering it. I don't understand how we got here. I mean, I guess with good point. Like, nobody's trying to lose their license or get in the crosshairs of bullshit because it's going to cost the company millions. But this has always been a thing with journalism. Like, you take the calculated risk of being like, is the story important enough to inform the public? And then you report on it, and then the lawyers ante up, prepared to take the hit or prepared to argue, because telling the truth is supposed to matter more than everything else. Like, that's what we're taught in J school, indoctrinated with. Not just like, this is the thing. It's like, you run to the scene of the crime, you get the story, and you tell the truth. The country's not in a good place. My profession is not in a good place. Part of the reason that the country is not in a good place is directly because of my profession failing us. We need a new topic. I've been listening to this new Mariah Carey album. Have you listened to it? I didn't even know there was an album coming out. I was at the bookstore the other day to pick up Kamala Harris's book, which I did finish. It's good the whole way through. We'll talk about it in a second. But this Mariah Carey album, it's her 16th studio album, Here for It All. I did not know this album existed, like I was saying, until I went to pick up Kamala Harris's book. And just as an old habit, I don't buy magazines anymore like I used to. I keep folders of digital images that I love. I just swung by the magazines just to look and see who was on the cover. And Mariah was on the cover of like one of like the big women's magazines. And I was like, that's weird, because it's not the December issue. Mariah Carey is the reigning queen of Christmas for, I don't know, a decade and counting. So that would make sense. But I was like, these are the October and November issues. Like, why is Mariah Carey on the cover? And so I picked it up and like flipped through it. And they were like, Mariah Carey back in the studio, her upcoming 16th album. She talks about, all these things. And I was like, wait, what? The marketing plan for this album, trash. I believe that I am core Mariah Carey demo. I have all her other albums. I was a huge Mariah Carey fan. I don't understand how I was not made aware of the album other than this magazine cover for a magazine that, frankly, I don't even read. I'm chronically online as an occupational hazard. I scroll constantly. I saw nothing about Mariah Carey's new album. It's really good. I've been driving around listening to it. There are a couple songs that have like a Anderson .Paak. What's his little friend? His little friend, Bruno Mars. They have that kind of vibe that I don't particularly care for. Like, I like them as personas and artists. The music is not, I don't need like a rebrand of a Motown sound. Like, I just go listen to Motown. There are a couple songs like that I don't care for. But there's other stuff that's like really good. Mariah, like Mariah talking her shit. Mariah is one of my favorite Mariahs. Then she's got like a gospel song. It's a solid album. Like, I've been listening to it as I drive and on the treadmill for, I don't know, about a week. Those are good signs. The other album I listen to like that is Clips. Ratchet and respectable. But nobody's really talking about it. I don't know what the numbers are, nor do I particularly care, to be quite honest. Oh, speaking of music, last week's episode, when I recorded, we talked about Cardi and Nicki and a whole bunch of other female rappers like all feuding online. And I kind of brushed over it because I was like, oh, they just doing the back and forth that they always do, like blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't really particularly care. By the time the episode had published, maybe the day after, they were still going. They had started talking about each other's kids. I don't know who said what first. This is me chronicling things that I saw. I am not attempting to give chronological order. I know that they were feuding. I know that at some point I saw a message from one woman to the other. I think Cardi said something about like Nicki's kid being slow. His favorite letter is 5. I was like, Cardi. Cardi said something about Nicki's kid being slow because she was popping pills, the Percocet. the whole time she was pregnant. She said Nicki was in the house high and tough typing, and she said her husband won't get her any help. He wants her passed out so he can go run up her credit card bills. Like, it was ugly. Nicki said to Cardi that culture was ugly. She called Cardi's children monkeys. Like, it was bad. It was real bad. And then Nicki tried to give a half-ass apology, and she was like, culture, no, you actually are beautiful. Lots of little girls have big gums or something like that. And I was like, lady. And I use lady liberally and loosely here. Ma'am, both ma'ams. I said something about it online, and people were like, well, you're accusing Cardi, but Nicki started it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey. Y'all are grown-ass people, mothers. So y'all know how boundary crossing it is to talk about children. Oh, pause, one thing. Nicki said, I have one child with my first love. We got married and then chose to have a child, and I planned my child or something like that. And I was like, hey, ma'am, hey. You know that we know that your husband is a registered sex offender. Yes, Cardi's husband was not shit because of the cheating. If I had to choose between, like, your man and Cardi's man, I mean, these are both horrible fucking choices. I would take the man who cheats, who has consensual sex with adult women, than the sex offender, rapist, who has to register with the state any day. You can't get on a high horse and be like, it was my first love. I mean, yes. And he's a sex offender. Like, you can't scrub over that. Like, that's not one. Like, he got a DUI 20 years ago. Yes. He's moved on. He's growing up. He made a mistake. He stopped making that mistake. He went on to do fabulous things with his life. Don't drive drunk. Don't drive under the influence. Full stop. Bad. And it's not worse, especially if you kill nobody, than being a sex offender. Cheating, bad. Full stop. Bad. Don't do it. Bad. Better than sex offender. Can't call people's children monkeys under any circumstances. Bad to call people's children ugly and slow, too. But monkeys, it devolved. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because, like, last week's episode, I was like, oh, the girls are at it again. I kind of, like, brushed it over. But I was like, nah, they went crazy. Oh, what I was going to say. Cardi, when I wrote about it, people were like, oh, you're blaming Cardi, but you're not blaming Nicki, and Nicki started it. Look, we're not, like, in kindergarten or elementary school, right? It doesn't matter who started it at this point. These are grown-ass women. Cardi is, I think, 32. Grown. Like, you can't be like, oh, she's like 24. Her front lobe isn't even developed. Like, people are still impulsive. Like, no. Y'all are grown people and mothers. One of y'all got to be adult enough to be like, this is too much. This needs to stop. We've reached a point where people have been punched in the face, or worse, for far less. Somebody has to have sense enough to be like, no, I'm not responding to this. This is done. Like, you just rant and rave by yourself. I am reminded of the eloquent poetry from Sean Carter, arguing with fools. People from a distance can't tell who is who. So Nicki may have started it, but them going back and forth for days on the internet makes both of them look batshit. Whatever the core beef that they have, which I don't even know what it is at this point, like, I need y'all to sit down. And I don't even think it's possible after this latest back and forth, but to actually sit down and have a face-to-face conversation about, like, this is the core issue. This is what I'm mad about. This is the shit that got me mad. So y'all can stop doing this, like, I think annually at this point. Between the two of them, it's a lot of crash outs. Do we have any other updates? We do. We have an update about the Diddy trial. Last week's episode, I think Diddy was in the title. He was getting ready to be sentenced. We recorded on Tuesday, Wednesday. The sentencing was on Friday. You are well aware by now that the judge did not release him. He was sentenced to 50 months in prison, which is a little over 4 years. That 50 months does include the current 13 months that he is currently served while he was awaiting trial and sentencing. This is federal, so at minimum, he will have to serve 80%, I think 80 or 85% of the time that the judge has sentenced him to. He's looking at minimum about 2.5 years in jail, which the defense says that they're going to appeal. And I was like, I don't really know what grounds you have to stand on. The judge gave him less than what I thought it was required, but the minimum was. I think the minimum for what he had been convicted of was something like 70 months, 70 to 80 months, I think was the sentencing guidelines. I guess it's not required, but he got 50 months instead. I'm like, the judge actually did you a solid. Like, I don't think he deserved, but for whatever reason, the judge did. I'm still trying to like make sense of it. So all day Friday, the prosecution makes their case for why he should get 11 years. He is a violent, monstrous, terrible person who did these crazy acts, and he should remain in jail for a very long time. The prosecution pointed out this man has no accountability and doesn't recognize the seriousness of his crimes. And Exhibit A is today is Friday, and he's planned speaking engagements for Monday. The prosecution was like, he's not taking this shit seriously. How could he possibly take it seriously and think that he's walking today based on all the evidence of all the things that he's done? He committed a federal crime that he just got convicted for and doesn't think he's going to actually get any real sentencing. Diddy's lawyer started crying. One of the lawyers, the black woman, not just like, her eyes welled up, but they were legitimate tears, and she was, like sniffling, and she was talking about what a great man her client is, how he's a changed man, how he's a better man, how he doesn't deserve to stay in prison, how he needs to be released back to his family. Like, she really laid it on thick. And I was like, ma'am, do you get a bonus if he gets off? She was like, I'm with him every night. I talk to him for an hour every night. Ma'am, you are charging for that hour. That is not of your own good time. Those are billable hours that you are reporting back to your law firm. Stop this. Stop this now. Diddy got up and spoke for himself and said, Your Honor, I am a changed man. Like, since being in jail, like, I have had a come to Jesus moment. I've been sober for the first time in 25 years. He says, I don't like myself right now. I can't forgive myself for the way that I treated physically women that I loved. Like, I did bad things, but I can be a better person. And please, Your Honor, give me a second chance. He apologized to his mother for being a bad son. He apologized to his children for being a bad example to them, for being a bad father to them. And his children also got up in court and spoke on his behalf. They said everything I expected people who want their daddy to get out of jail to say. I wonder if because it was all day. I want to say court started at 10. The judge didn't rule until 4:30. There were a couple breaks throughout the day. Nothing significant. They laid it on thick. And then the judge was like, you did some terrible shit. And you deserve to stay in prison. And he was like, I'm thankful for the victims that came forward and told the court and the world their truth. Like, I applaud you. And then he gave him 4 years. And I was like, that's it? I'm going to keep it 100. I'm going to repeat what I said last episode. I didn't know what the outcome would be. I can't read anything in this current environment that we're in. Like, left is right, up is down, the sky is green, not blue. Like, nothing makes sense anymore. So I had no idea what was going to happen. But I just thought that if the guidelines were a minimum of 70 months, then at least he would get the minimum, because he got to get something, right? But I was like, you chose to sentence him and not time served. So, like, that was worst case scenario. So basically, like, nothing. Like, you gave him a little something, but I was just like, for all that he did, I mean, I understand there's all that he did that we know him to have done, like 110%. But like beating Cassie on video, that can't be prosecuted because the statute of limitations ran out. All the times that Cassie said he beat the shit out of her, all the times that other people were like, yeah, I was there. Yeah, he did that shit. His lawyer said, yeah, he did that shit because he was high, not because he was trying to traffic the girl. Statute of limitations ran out on most of that, so he can't be held accountable for it, at least in this court. But like, something. And I guess the 4 years and change that he was sentenced to, I guess that's the something. It still feels like a tap on the wrist, but admittedly it's better than nothing. But also, like, I recognize to say that is showing how low my bar is for everything right now. That my expectations aren't that justice is served. My expectation is just like, it's not too unjust, if you understand the difference. I'm glad he's not going home. I can't disclose the who, but I will tell you, I had several interviews lined up, ready to talk about Diddy had he been convicted of RICO or of trafficking. because I was almost guaranteed that he would have a more significant sentence, especially if it was RICO, because the government would have seized the money. He wouldn't have the resources to retaliate against people. When he didn't get convicted for RICO or trafficking, the crash out of several people behind the scenes and also people who had testified. I can say this because Cassie has pretty much summed it up in her letter to the judge. But they were like, he is crazed and he is vengeful. If you let this man out of jail, as soon as he gets the opportunity, he's coming after us. He's coming after the people who told on him. He's coming after the people who spoke up. I wish I could say more. It's a shit show behind the scenes. And it was the entire trial. This is not my story to tell secondhand. I can provide you the platform if you want to share it, but I can't. I can only say but so much. I should also add this. The full sentence was 50 months, $500,000 is a fine, which I was like, that's a shopping spree to him, a watch or two. Perhaps more significant when every dollar counts, because there's no money rolling in right now. And he still got to deal with all of these civil suits that have been filed against him. So we've been focusing on the federal trial for obvious reasons. But a lot of those civil suits, some of them have gone away, but most of them are still in place. Those lawyers are still coming after his money, which money going out and no money coming in. And even if he does settle, he's going to have to pay lawyers to draw up those contracts with the NDAs. And then if he doesn't settle, then he's got to pay lawyers to go through a full-fledged trial to the lawyer fees. And there's a possibility of him losing. So who knows what these payouts will look like. So he's not quite out of the woods. I'd be interested to see what his finances look like 18 months to 2 years from now, or by the time he gets out of jail. Because again, no money coming in, but a ton of money going out on these lawyers to defend himself from these civil suits. He still has a lot of bullshit that he's got to deal with. Bullshit of his own making, which he acknowledged. But he's got a lot to deal with, even while he sits in prison. Oh, the Kamala book, it's 300 pages, day by day, from literally the day she gets the call that Joe is stepping down. She has maybe an hour or so to get ready for the announcement. From page 1 all the way through, she details every day of her campaign, all 107 days. And almost every single page, somebody gets dragged by name by Kamala Harris. I think when I first started talking about it on the podcast, when I was just reading the reviews, I compared what people were saying about her book and some of the sentiments that she expressed. And I was like, this very much sounds like Meghan Markle over in London with the royals, and how people would attack her and nobody would stand up for her. And then the people she expected to protect her, like, okay, you won't protect me from the outside because you're that's just noise, and focus on the work. She was like, they also didn't protect me on the inside. They never really gave me a chance to win. Like every win that I had was hard fought and my own team, and I didn't have support for most of it. And I was like, so it's the story of Meghan, now it's the story of Kamala. It's also the story of, I would say, most Black women in predominantly white spaces. Every white space that I've worked in, for the most part, there's been this sort of I'm not fully seen, I'm not fully protected, I get the worst assignments, and then I get a win, and then people seemingly are surprised by it. It's like, we designed this for you to fail. How did you win? You must have cheated. I'm like, wait, what? That's what this book gives. She also does take accountability for some blind spots that she had, some mistakes that she made, some alley-oops. For instance, she said that she went on The View and she was specifically asked how her agenda differed from Biden, because she was still vice president and he's still president. And, he put her on as VP. She wanted to remain loyal. So she didn't want to get on The View and start listing all the ways that she disagreed with him and things that he had done wrong. She thought that would be kind of pulling him down to lift herself up. And she was like, I was very thankful. She was like, I did have loyalty to Joe. They were constantly questioning her loyalty to him as well. So she felt like she was constantly having to prove that she was loyal. And she was like, that was a great opportunity that The View laid in front of me. And she was like, I told them that I agree with him on everything. And she was like, and that was to my detriment because people couldn't separate me from him. And she also does this other really great thing. Sometimes she would talk about people did this and they were wrong and they screwed me over. And she'll call people a MF, or Trump especially. She'll just say it plain, how she really feels about the person. And then other times, especially with Biden, because she's still loyal to this day, to a degree, she'll tell things that Joe did. she'll let you figure out how you feel about it without editorializing to say, like, isn't this fucked up? Like, he did this and it was so damn wrong. Like, she talks about, which I don't remember from the campaign. I was also overseas for a good chunk of it. 'Cause remember, I had that surgery. Not only was I overseas, I was preparing for a surgery and like fretting about that. My attention was diverted. She talks about Joe putting on a MAGA hat on camera during the campaign. And she was like, I'm watching him do it. And I'm like, no, Joe, no. No, Joe, no. No, Joe, no. And then he did it. And she never really says how she feels about it, but you can guess how you would feel about it if, you're running for office and your boss puts on the hat for the opposition where it looks like he's co-signing them. You'd be like, what the fuck? Kamala doesn't say it. She lets you feel and project that onto the person. So it's actually very smart. And also because I live in D.C. and, know people who worked for Kamala Harris. The names that are not mentioned, the people that presented themselves as bigger deals than what they were, which is a very DC thing to do. That's not specific to DC. A lot of places do that. Let me not call out DC, but it is a big thing here. But it's like people position themselves as having a lot more power and a lot more clout and a lot more influence and a lot more proximity to the inner circle, a lot more influence than they actually had. Because I was like, hey, I just read 300 pages and you were out here telling everybody that you were Kamala's this, and this, and your name ain't mentioned not a once in this book. I said online, don't let me have no wine when I do this book review. And people were like, please do. Please have the red or whatever it was you was drinking when you was in Martha's Vineyard. And I was like, that was Ray and nephew. I was like, that's vacation. I'm not on vacation. But yeah, I was like, oh, no, let me not get to talking and asking around. That's not necessary. We'll just focus on the contents of the book, if that's all right with you. This is a really good read. I talked about it several times on social media and a bunch of people were like, okay, fine. I will go pick up the book or download it on Audible because Kamala is reading her own book on Audible. Let me know what you think. I hesitate to call it even an unofficial read for our unofficial book club because I cannot get this shit off the ground. It's been years now. Maybe we'll try again at the top of the year. But in the meantime, read the book and that's that. Last but not least, and I really don't even want to talk about this because it's so damn dumb, Ayesha Curry is trending once again. And I said to myself, what are they accusing Ayesha Curry of now? They always accusing the lady of something. I don't know anything that she's actually really done wrong in all the years that she's been a public figure. I've seen her dragged multiple times after a few years of pure celebration. At one point, Ayesha was like the new Claire Huxtable. It was like, get you a Claire. The new Claire was get you a Ayesha. Like she was everything. And then she began to talk and didn't say anything crazy. But I guess just the idea of a woman married to an NBA powerhouse who had the idea to, I don't know, have an opinion and actual work, like popular work, good work, instead of just being a happy homemaker and mother, like it pushes people over the damn edge. Something about this woman just upsets people. So I will give an inch to acknowledge the time where she was on, I think it was Twitter. This was the early years. And she said something like, I see a lot of people, I'm paraphrasing, with like their bits and pieces hanging about. She was talking about women dressing scantily clad. And she says, I prefer to cover up, save the showing of my bits and pieces for the person I love or the person who matters most to me or something like that. So a little, feeling herself. I remember talking about it at the time and I'm like, people are jumping down her throat saying that, oh, she's trying to body shame other women. And I was like, really what she said were I statements. Like she made an observation, like these are the things that other people like to do. And here's the thing that I like to do. She didn't call anybody out their name. She didn't say anybody should be degraded or treated poorly. It's the run-of-the-mill virtue signaling that like everybody does all over social media all day, every day. But somehow it turned into a big kerfluffle. I could kind of see how people could take a little, like, when nobody asking you your opinion on this, why did you feel like you had to say something about this topic that nobody was thinking about you for? Valid. But then it turned into a multi-day dragging. And I was like, what is this really about? Because it can't just be because the woman was like, I like to cover up. What is this really about? We've never gotten to the answer of that because years later, people are still attacking Ayesha Curry for like no damn reason. So this time, Ayesha Curry did an interview with Call Her Daddy and quotes from the conversation. are being cherry picked and shared all over the internet. And this is standard. Like excerpts are used to promote conversations all the time. And the interview was about, it was comprehensive about Ayesha Curry's life, like literally from childhood. She was a child actress. She acted throughout her teenage years. She graduated from high school a year early so she could move from North Carolina to LA to pursue acting. So she moved to LA when she was 17 years old. And it's when she was in LA, not when she met Steph, but when they actually like moved it from a friendship, a guy that she knew from church who she was cool with, to he was out in LA for like a basketball camp or something like that. And then they started dating, and then it flourished into a relationship. But she talks about she and Steph being madly in love and her flying back and forth from LA all the time because she had like the freer schedule to spend time with him and build their relationship. And, it was just a foregone conclusion that they were just going to be together. Like the distance was painful. Like they were just very deep in love. So when Steph gets signed to Golden State, they decide to get married. She leaves LA and she goes to be with him. And she said that I thought we'd be married for like a few years. We'd like, hit all the bars and gallivant and travel and do a whole bunch of, just us as a couple, newlywed things. But she got pregnant, I think she said maybe 3 months after she got married, like, but very quickly. I want to say she got married at 22. She had the first kid, Riley, who's now 13, at like 23. Yeah, that tracks because she's 36. Somewhere around 24, Riley was a year old, and she was like, hey, like, what happened? She sort of came back to herself and was like, I had been an actress my entire life, and I moved to LA to pursue this dream, and things happened with me and Steph, which I was like super happy about. And then we got married, which I was happy about. I moved to be with him, which was fine because we wanted to be together. The kid came quickly, but I was happy being a mom. Like I enjoyed being a mother. But also, like, I was like, well, what about like my dreams and ambitions? Like I had things that I wanted to do. She also pointed out that the life that she had at that time, she was like, it was just really weird to me because like I was Steph Curry's wife. And she was like, when me and Steph would talk about like our dreams and our futures, I had moved to LA to like break it big in the business in Hollywood. And I wanted to be like this big, well-known actress. And Steph was playing basketball, but she was like, he didn't have this idea that he was going to be like this NBA superstar. Steph would say things like he wanted to be a high school basketball coach. She said, when we were talking about planning a life together, that's what we talked about. Like you were going to be a basketball coach and I was going to be like this big actress. And so obviously things panned out a different way. But she was like, I did have to take a moment and be like, like, hey, like, what's going on? I had these big dreams that I really wanted. They were everything to me. And now I'm not doing anything about it. And very quickly, she decided to do something about it because she has this revelation around 24. She ends up on TV doing a cooking show by the time she's 25, and her first book comes out when she's 26. The conversation that people are having online about like, oh, Ayesha Curry is saying that she never wanted to be a wife and a mother, and she's so unhappy with her life. Well, she never said she was unhappy with her life. She said she was unhappy that she wasn't pursuing her career. And when she said she never thought that she would be a wife and a mother, she's thinking about her mindset when she was, I don't know, between like 17, 18, 19 years old, and she moved to LA to pursue acting. She moved to LA to pursue acting and was not dating Steph. He started coming out to LA because of basketball stuff, and they started hanging out and they started building a relationship. But she moved out there seemingly without anybody on her mind, like she was just chasing her dream. And that seems to be very upsetting to people. You know what? That's not accurate. People aren't watching the actual episode. I don't even think they're watching the clip that's circulating because all of it is actually in the clip. People are just hearing her say that I didn't want to be a wife and a mother, and they're attributing that to her saying it now. And I was like, her saying I didn't want is very different. Past tense is very different than her saying I currently, me with 4 kids and a husband, don't want to be a wife and a mother. That's not what she said. There's another clip that's circulating where she says that Steph doesn't get her. She said, like, she was like, I talked to Steph and like, he just doesn't get it. Like, he just doesn't get me. The context of it is she's talking about how she keeps getting dragged on social media and she gets upset about these things. And she goes to Steph And it's like, it's happening again. Like, these people are saying these crazy things. And she said Steph just doesn't put anything on it. He was like, people just say shit. Like, they just, why does it matter to you? Like, you get so upset. And he was like, who are these people? Like, it's not family. It's not friends. It's not people you know. They're complete strangers. Like, they're just saying dumb things. Like, don't let it get to you. So she's saying, like, I go talk to Steph about, like, this specific thing. And Steph is like, why do you let it get to you? And she was like, I try to tell him. And she's very, like, fun about it. And she was like, he just doesn't get me on this. Like, we just aren't seeing eye to eye. He just doesn't get it. But it's not like, as a whole, through the duration of my marriage, the father of my 4 children doesn't get me. It's when I talk to him about this very specific thing, it just rolls off his back and he can't relate to her being so upset about it. That's it. The idea that, like, Ayesha Curry is some, like, angry, unfulfilled woman who is ungrateful for her husband and doesn't like her children, it's just not accurate. Like, she says constantly throughout the interview, which actually is a really good interview, which I really would suggest that you watch, because she talks a lot about what she learned about being in business as a woman, as a young woman, juggling motherhood and business and family. Like, it's a comprehensive, really insightful interview. Throughout everything that she details as her struggles, and most of her struggles aren't with her family life and aren't with raising children, maybe some of the juggling of it all. But when she talks about struggle, it's almost exclusively about what she's had to face in business, coming up with these grand ideas and trying to figure out how to, like, execute them. She literally never criticizes her husband. An hour-long interview. She consistently says, I'm happy, we're happy, love my husband, love my life, but also here are some things that I have had to deal with just as a person living. She doesn't go in on him. She doesn't embarrass him. She doesn't insult him. She doesn't tell too much of his business. Like, there are people who talk about their husbands sometimes, and it's not always in the most flattering of ways. She doesn't even do that. And, like, that joking, disparaging of your spouse kind of way that men are kind of known for speaking about their wives in. Like, she's overall, like, pretty bubbly and pretty upbeat, but also just candid about living. She tells a story one time about, I think, being like an early mom, and she was in a car with Steph. She had to breastfeed the kid. She got in the back seat and she was like, I've got my boob out feeding my kid. And she said one of his fans just went up and, like, opened the car door and was like, looking at her breastfeeding her kid. And she was like, oh my God, what are you doing? And the woman says to her, you know what you signed up for. Like, you're Steph Curry's wife. Like, you know what you signed up for. And she was like, no, I didn't. Like, I didn't have a concept. I don't think she even had a concept of Steph being a phenomenal high school basketball player. Like, the story is always like they met in high school. I didn't get the sense after watching this interview that they went to the same school. She talked about having a crush on Steph. She was excited that he was going to be in California and she wanted to see him. And the interviewer says something like, oh, yes, because of basketball. She's like, no, not because of basketball. We went to the same church and he was really popular in church. I don't think Steph and, like, being, like, basketball popular and all of that really fully registered with her. So the idea that, like, oh, you're a basketball wife and, like, you knew what you were signing up for, I don't think either one of them really knew what they were signing up for. I think it's also worth mentioning Steph Curry had been in the league. I didn't know who he was until he did the press conference with his daughter, Riley. And she was probably like 2.5, 3 at the time. And she was just so cute and so smart and personable and precocious. And everyone was like, who is this kid? And then who is this guy? And then who is this family? So sports fans knew who he was, but he didn't become like a phenomenon where, like, everybody knows his name until after that press conference with his kid. He very quickly started being everywhere after that press conference. So I don't think either one of them knew what they were signing up for. So this idea that, like, oh, she knew what she was getting into. Did she? And also, as someone who's had, like, random brushes with fame, no one can prepare you for this shit. People tried. The thing that I do not name has been off the air for 10 years. Literally yesterday. And it happens nearly every day. But literally yesterday, I'm sitting at a bar having a drink with a friend. And this woman was like, oh my God, I know you. I know you. And I'm like, do you? Do you now? I never be like, oh, you must have seen me on TV, because that's fucking obnoxious. And I also said it once, and this was like years ago. This woman was like, I know you. I don't know where I know you, but I know that I know you. I know that I know you. I know that I know you. And I was like, oh, I was on a TV show. And she was like, know we were at the same wedding last weekend. And I was like, damn, I look like such a dick right now. People be like, where do I know you from? Where do I know you from? I will never say because I was on TV. But like literally the woman was like, it was a show. I can't remember the name of the show, but she was like, you look exactly the same all these years. I didn't know that doing that way back then. I didn't know like writing for Essence, having a column and having my picture in the magazine. I didn't know that it was going to like turn my face into like recognizable everywhere. When I was living in London, people would come up to me. I was in the south of France at like some chateau, and this woman and her boyfriend barely spoke English and was like pointing to me, and then like Googled something and showed me a picture of me. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I don't know how to say that in French. She didn't know. People are also like, well, why does Ayesha Curry do interviews? Like, she knows that everybody hates her. One, everybody doesn't hate her. I kind of love her. I think she's amazing. And also, she has her own brand. She has things to promote. She has her books. She has a quarterly magazine that comes out. She does cooking shows. At one point, does she still have it? The line of cookware? Like, she has stuff going on. Why would she not do interviews to promote her business like literally everyone else who has a business? I think there's the idea that because her husband is rich, that she should just sit back and enjoy his riches and just be, I don't know, seen and not heard like a child in the background. And I was like, and if she did that, you would call her a gold digger. Like, she wants to chase her own dreams and pursue her own passions. Like, she got something going on for herself. Her husband seems to like it. They've been together forever. He ain't the one complaining. It's a bunch of randoms on the internet. It's almost like she's not almost. It's like she is. She's punished for speaking, for having ambition, for not fulfilling some made up role of what people think a wife should be, especially like in the year of our Lord, 2025. If the girl says something stupid, I would be like, no, you should, girl. Like, you know, I like you. I like you lots. This was dumb. And then we talk about the dumb shit that she said. She didn't. Folks just don't like the lady. And I'll give her credit because a lot of people would get online and try to like argue with the masses. She said what she said. The interview has run. I haven't heard a peep from Ayesha trying to defend herself. She didn't say anything crazy. There's really nothing to defend. All right, that's the episode for today. Do we have anything else super crazy? Oh, yes. One thing I forgot to mention in Good Black News, I think this is worthy. I used to write for The Root for many years. I was a contributing editor. I had 2 columns, one for dating and relationships and another just about pop culture. Those were fun times. But The Root, I'm reading this on CNN.com, has returned to Black ownership. Ashley Allison, she knows so many people that I know. They've been up and down my timeline celebrating Ashley. And I was like, wait, how do I not know Ashley? Ashley Allison, a Democratic consultant and CNN commentator, has purchased The Root. CNN notes that the groundbreaking website for and about Black America is returning to Black ownership for the first time in years. And Allison says she plans to invest in video content, strike new partnerships with experts, and launch in-person experiences for the Roots readers. She says, quote, "This isn't about making more content, but rather about making meaning of this moment when journalism is under attack and audiences are seeking independent sources for news." CNN also notes Allison was an official in the Obama White House and National Coalitions Director for the Biden-Harris 2020 campaign. And The Root is the first acquisition by Watering Hole Media, a company she founded last year. Terms of the deal, i.e. how much she paid for it, have not been disclosed. So good for her. Congratulations to Ashley. At the top of this podcast episode, I was lamenting the state of journalism. The state of Black journalism is just even worse off. The other day, one of my writer colleagues was complaining online. She was like, I have great ideas that I want to write about. And she was like, there's no publication to really pitch them to. Like, nobody's really doing pure journalism anymore. Like, people are doing quippy stuff. People are doing blurbs. People are doing like AI generated whatever. But she was like, no one's really doing like a personal essay or commentary or anything like that. Not in writing per se, which is a lot of what I used to do. Every topic that I talk about on this podcast, I mean, today's episode, and then like, you know, basically everything I've said since I started this podcast in 2019 would have been an article. The money dried up and, you know, Auntie got bills. So I went where I could be purposeful, but also paid. I would love to reconnect with The Root. I was there from, when did I leave Essence? 2011, probably until 2015. I had 2 columns on the site, and then it just went in a different direction. A lot of the good editors that I had enjoyed working with were no longer there. Then the content shifted and, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to get into all those details. But I'm hopeful and happy and excited to see what is to come. That's the episode. If something crazy happens, I'll update after the closer. But otherwise, this isn't everything. This is what we've got. All right. Talk soon. Bye.